You don't see me very often these days, but when you do, it's usually for a reason. Now, I'm the guy on YouTube that usually preaches patience or payoff, and especially when it comes to wrestling, that's hard for fans to accept. Why sit around and wait when you could just give me somebody now? When indie superstars, say like Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt, is on the indies and he's one of the top wrestlers in the world, a lot of people don't understand why WWE has this mentality, especially Vince McMahon. You have to knock him down a peg. You have to really bury him first. A great example of this was AJ Styles. When he got brought into the WWE, he lost to Jericho and people went, why? AJ Styles is probably the best wrestler in the world right now. Why sign him if you're just going to bury him? And then he faced Roman Reigns and lost a bunch of times. But fast forward 3 years now and AJ Styles is on the verge of becoming one of the longest reigning champions in WWE modern day history with a reign of over 350 days. Another prime example right now is on WWE SmackDown Live. We all knew Becky Lynch could be the top superstar. We all knew Becky Lynch could be one of the greatest female wrestlers of all time. We all knew she could be one of the best personality and charismatic superstars of all time. When SmackDown Live first went live again on Tuesdays, she was the champion. Now obviously they traded shots back and forth, her, Naomi, Alexa, and eventually she would fall off. During that time, Charlotte and Asuka would have a reign and they would go on to be the top dogs on SmackDown. Meanwhile, Becky Lynch was forgotten about. I think we hate to admit it to ourselves, but as much as we hate when superstars aren't getting used properly on TV, we get the sense of entitlement when we're the ones at their lowest point shouting out that they could do it. They could be the top superstar. They could be the champion. So when WWE finally realizes it and puts the title on Becky Lynch, we all go, see? That could have been Becky Lynch the entire time. And you're absolutely right, and I get that. Raw, for example, with Alexa Bliss. I think CM Bulls would agree with this. There's only 3 things that are guaranteed in life. Life, death, and Alexa Bliss holding the championship within 6 months. And a lot of times, it really ticks people off, especially with Bayley, Sasha Banks, so many great talent on Raw. Why do certain superstars have to get buried? Why are we waiting for this Bayley-Sasha Banks payoff forever? Why did we not get the match at WrestleMania? Which is a fair point. I wanted Bayley versus Sasha Banks as much as the next person, but it didn't happen. But then we finally start to hear rumblings of a WWE Women's Tag Team division. And if that was the case, could you really think of a better inaugural tag team champions? I think best friends. They would absolutely dominate the division. So by prolonging it, WWE is just keeping a card in their back pocket. They know you want to see Bayley versus Sasha Banks. So why take it out now? Why do it now? What's the rush to get it across? Why do we have to have that match now? I think it's the same thing with Charlotte and Asuka when people were really confused. Why did she lose? Why did the streak die for Charlotte? But then you forget Charlotte's on this reign to... She could pass her dad. She's a multi-time champion and she's almost unstoppable at times. And Charlotte's fantastic. And I think we saw the best of both worlds and really proved why women can main event in the WWE with Charlotte versus Becky Lynch. Now, a lot of us got really ticked off that that wasn't the main event because that last women's standing match was phenomenal, off the charts, in contendership for match of the year in WWE. Going back a couple years, hell, even 2 or 3 years ago, you really wouldn't envision, even though you always knew the women could main event, you really didn't think it was a possibility because they weren't given the chance to shine. But once they were given the chance to shine, Becky Lynch absolutely dominated Charlotte, who tried to go for that one step above, that moonsault to the outside, and it ultimately cost her. Now where does Charlotte go from here? What happens if Becky Lynch becomes the super dominant champion, and all year on TV, Charlotte's doing nothing? Do we start cheering Charlotte? Is Charlotte buried? Or are they looking at a long game? Same thing with Asuka. Asuka's not doing anything on TV. She's been in random tag team matches. She's been working with Naomi. Things have been a little awkward. You're like, but she's Asuka. She was one of the longest reigning NXT champion. She never lost. She was undefeated. Why isn't she doing anything? Well, have Becky Lynch. And it's hard to say that, and it's hard to be the guy that tries to be the voice of reason when it comes to payoffs or waiting or storylines or booking or whatever. We've talked a lot about the women's division, but let's touch on the men's division. I think for most of us in the modern day era, one of the best, whether you like the story or not, the best story was Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was this guy that, let's just imagine for a moment, they were always going to do Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. They always knew Daniel Bryan was not a B-plus player. They always knew Daniel Bryan's triumphant story from the little guy, from ROH to WWE champion, Shawn Michaels prodigy. What if they always knew it? But by leaking out all the time that he wasn't a main event worthy guy, he's a B-plus player, everything you can do in today's day and age to get over a storyline, not letting him be in, bring back a guy like Batista. What if the plan was always to bring back Batista and have him go over Daniel Bryan? Now, we know as wrestling fans that these plans change all the time. Dave Meltzer knows better than anybody. Superstars know better than anybody that you could be on a roll and WWE can just up and stop. WWE does mess stuff up. Every company messes stuff up. It's not easy to always tell a story when money's on the line. But that Daniel Bryan storyline where he won the title and then it was taken away from him by the Authority, and all year he tried to chase the title, and then it never happened. And then you had Randy Orton versus John Cena when they combined the titles. And everything that happened ultimately led to this moment of Daniel Bryan overwhelmingly not getting his Royal Rumble opportunity, having to occupy Raw and win the championship. That moment was a year's worth of build. That wasn't just Daniel Bryan in February or March, WWE scrambling to have a storyline. That was WWE laying the foundation for an entire year from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. From SummerSlam all the way through the Night of Championship, the rematches with Randy Orton. Everything that led up to that moment made you go, yes, I always knew. I knew Daniel Bryan would win. And let's fast forward a little bit now. You have one of the most organically over superstars of all time. Braun Strowman is a guy that is changing the landscape. He's this big dude, and get these hands is becoming the thing. When he was facing for the championship last year, the big storyline or plot was, well, if he loses to Brock, he just has to put somebody through a table. Braun Strowman has had so many phases in WWE, and he's not even held a singles championship. He's been a tag team champion with Nicholas. Shout out to Nicholas. He got the payoff. But Braun's build is something that's for the long haul. I mean, if you truly think about it, it's incredible in this day and age that he's not held the championship. That he has not been the WWE Universal title holder. That's incredible. And I have to give it to WWE. That's a good thing. As much as I want Braun Strowman to be champion, we all know Braun Strowman is WWE Universal Championship material. It's kind of great that he hasn't. Because so far he's been on this path where he was so close and it was taken away from him. But the guy that was the Universal Champion or became Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, would always get these hands and he would beat him. They've kind of built this Austin Rock rivalry between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, and they haven't even really fought for the title yet. They haven't had that opportunity, with Joe having to step down due to leukemia, Brock Lesnar winning that title back, which I truly believed was always going to happen. You have Crown Jewel, which was a pay-per-view that most people said they weren't going to watch. Over the politics and everything that happened, I condemn the actions of what the government did. But at the same time, this was a show many people said they were going to boycott. So it kind of made sense not to give Braun Strowman the title, whether you want to hear it or not. Why give it to him at Crown Jewel? This is a main event worthy match at WrestleMania when Braun finally does it. I think we overlooked that, and that's where I'm coming from. That's where I try to discuss with you guys when it comes to the payoff. You don't want Braun to wait. You want Braun to have the title now. And I can't blame you for that. But I'm just saying, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and he finally does it. Now, Brock Lesnar beat Roman Reigns, and Roman couldn't get the job done. But if Braun Strowman does it, that's pretty incredible. That's a feat in itself. That's something that's epic. And that's something that's worth the payoff. So I'm going to throw out a crazy prediction. Because now you got a guy like Drew McIntyre that everybody says, I want Drew to be in that spot. Well, Lesnar versus Strowman was a main event leaked by Vince McMahon or Dave Meltzer, whoever it was, 2 years ago. And at that point, none of us were ready for it. Now Braun's been screwed out of the title numerous times. Brock's taking the title to UFC, and he's going to be fighting Cormier. It's time we have a new beast step up. And it's time Brock Lesnar gets these hands in a WrestleMania. I believe he is. So the bet of the year for Tubby is Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman for the title at WrestleMania. I think Baron laid the groundwork by screwing him on Crown Jewel, and he'll always be one step away. Until that point where he's no longer one step away. And he finally does it and becomes champion on the grandest stage of them all. So that's the payoff. My name is Tubby Emu. Hope I didn't bore you to death. Until next time, we will see you all later. Am I wrong?